We continue our look at the Gospel of Matthew. We continue to walk through each and every chapter and verse. We come to, in this selection, Matthew chapter 10 and verses 26 to 31. But don't be afraid of those who threaten you. For the time is coming when the truth will be revealed. Their secret plots will become public information. What I tell you now in the gloom about will be abroad when daybreak comes. What I whisper in your ears, proclaim from the housetops. Don't be afraid of those who can kill your bodies, but cannot touch your souls. Fear only God, who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Not one sparrow, what do they cost? 2 for a penny, can fall to the ground without your Father knowing it. And the very hairs of your head are numbered. So don't worry, you are more valuable than many sparrows. The Living Bible. In the early centuries of the Christian church, Christian theology was influenced by Greek philosophy. What we mean by this is that as the church went forth, people converted to the faith. And as they converted to the faith, they brought their education, their training, their background into the church. In time, Greek philosophy became one of the tools by which Christian theology was done, and it was not all bad. You have to understand that what Greek philosophy provided was a precision in terminology to the theology that Hebrew did not have. If you have the patience, read up on the great debates on the nature of the Trinity and how we are to speak of Jesus theologically. My point is not to denigrate the significance of this work, but note for those of us who are not philosophically minded, the debates at times are extremely difficult to read. The use of Greek philosophical terminology in theology was not always positive, unfortunately, as it did lead to the recasting of the meaning of some key terms. We can think in particular the word soul in Christian theology came to be seen through a largely Greek definition. In the modern world, the discipline of psychology has become very important. The word psychology is in effect the coming together of two Greek words. We think of the word psyche or soul and the log part, which is from the root Greek word meaning to study or reason. The first of the two words means soul, the second means study. Therefore, ergo, psychology is the study of the soul. And the use of the Greek word for soul, and note that the translation of the Old Testament into Greek predates the birth of the church. The precursor to Greek philosophy being used in Christian theology is actually found in the translation of the Old Testament into the Greek, the Septuagint. But what happens as you do this is you translate into any other language from one language to another. Words take on meanings that might not be there originally in the original language. The original Hebrew word for soul is nephesh. In its most basic meaning, the Hebrew word for soul means a living being. The ancient Greeks, in some circles, talked of the immortal soul. The Greek idea of the soul as having a life apart from God is not at all consistent with the Hebrew understanding found in the word nephesh. In order to understand Matthew 10:28 rightly, we have to be certain in our understanding of what Jesus meant by soul. In the biblical understanding, the life that the soul or individual has is from God. If you do not have God, you do not have the source of life. And that way, it is a very different meaning than one can find in Greek philosophical circles, where a soul is an entity within an individual that will exist even when the body dies. Here again, the Greek philosophical model of humanity makes distinctions that were not there in the Hebrew Old Testament. Now, obviously, this may seem as a rather arcane and petty discussion. If we are to understand rightly what Jesus is saying about persecution for the faith It begins in an understanding of how we, as women and men, are created. You see, if our life and life force has come from God, then only God can take it. And the old medium of records, and in particular those records called 45s, there was an A and a B side. The A side usually had the more important song, and the B, well, it was usually a filler song. The A side in this case is that life comes from God. This is foundational. The B side is that all of us must one day give up our lives and give it back to him who gave it. In the case of persecution, the death, be it physical or spiritual, is anticipating the reality that will be, that each of us must give back and give account of the life that has been given to us. The person of faith has the assurance that he loves us completely and totally, and that to give up our lives for his cause is no real sacrifice. We know not only that we will die physically, but we know that as we embrace the God of all life, we cannot actually die. The soul, the life force within us, will through him find life again, and by his grace at the resurrection, we will have a new and transformed body. In that way, suffering persecution is our personal acknowledgement that God will take care of us. Yes, take care of us, even in the throes of death.